two,
Hi
one.
everyone, Mr. Neighbor here, and today we're going to talk about simple interest. Simple interest is an easy way to calculate how much you will owe on a loan. So whenever you take out a loan, the people that give you the loan want to ensure they get their money back in all of it. So what they do is they decide to charge something called interest. So that interest has a rate, a percent, and by paying that interest, the person or bank or entity is getting their money back, but also more. So they have like an insurance, a safety net, so that you don't take any of their money without giving it back. You actually have to pay more. So you might have to take out a loan when you get a car, when you get a house, when you go to college, and all those things will have interest rates. You want to have a very low interest rate because then you won't have to pay as much. But those people who are giving you the loan, they would benefit more from a high interest rate. So it all depends whose side of the fence you're looking from. But normally people want low interest rates. So how we calculate interest is through an equation, and that equation is given right here. So the interest is equal to the principal, that's the amount that you would like to take out in your loan, times the rate, that's as a number, not as a percent, and time. So time can be in months, it could be in years, but whatever this is in months or years, this also has to be the rate in months or years. So if this is a time in years, this interest rate has to be in years. If this time is months, then this interest rate has to be in months. So this is what we call simple interest. This formula will calculate it. Actual interest is a little bit more complex because your final amount, your principal, actually, that's not a good way to put it, but your final amount is constantly changing because that interest is being added on top of it. So this is how you would actually calculate interest. It deals with a number called E, which is approximately 2.718, and it has exponents in it. The rate and the time are now in the exponent position. So it's a little bit more complex. That's why we're dealing with simple interest. All right, so let's try this out with a couple examples. Just for reference, we are going to be using in this problem a 3% annual interest rate. Okay, so this is for one full year, it would be 3%. Okay. Actually, I'm going to change that. Actually, I think it's okay with annual. That number 3% is going to change for these problems down here, though, because I gave 4% and 2.5%. So the 3% only pertains to 1 and 2. So to calculate simple interest, we have to take our principal, which is 580. We multiply it by the simple interest rate as a number, so that would be a decimal, and then you times by the quantity of time, so 5 years. This was an annual interest rate, and this is a number of years. Annual means years, so those two labels match, so I will just write down the number 5 for 5 years. And then I would just calculate this out, and I get a total of 87. So this is dollars. So if I were to put this into my savings account, it would earn 3% interest for me. So I would actually make some money on this. I would make $87 on this $580 amount that I put in. So in total, I would make over $600, or I would have over $600 after 5 years of time just by letting my money sit there. So this is a situation where interest is good because we're getting the money by allowing the bank to use the money we put into the savings account. Here we have another one. So to calculate simple interest, we're going to take our principal. We're going to multiply it by our simple interest rate. And then we are going to multiply by the time. This is the time in months, though, where this is a rate in years. So I have to think about how much of a year this is. Well, 6 months is 6/12 of a year. It's half a year. I like doing things over 12, though, because it's essentially giving me the exact amount. If we say 5 months, we might say, oh, that's approximately half a year, but that's not an exact amount. To get the exact amount, we would take 5 divided by 12. That's exactly the percent, really, of a year that we are going through. So this is the calculation that I would need to do. So I'll take all that, multiply it together, and I would get out $8.70. So just after 6 months, I would have made $8.70 by putting this into my savings account through this bank, which is really nice. That's a good rate. All right, let's try another one. Oops. So this one gives me my amount I'm putting into my account, the rate right here, and then the amount of time. So the interest is going to be our principal times our rate as a number. Don't forget that 0 right after the decimal right here. And then our time. This is an annual interest rate if they don't tell you otherwise. And this is years, which is an annual thing. So that means I can just write that number. When I multiply all that out, I get $117. And that is the amount of interest I will make. Another one. The principal times the interest. And I'm just going to change this to be 5 months, just to change things up a little bit. So 5 months is how much of a year? It is 5/12 of a year. It's 5 out of 12 whole months. So when I calculate that out, I get approximately $12.67. So that's doing it with months. Here we have an example in example 3 where we're talking about a loan. So Ronell's parents borrow $6,300 from the bank for a new car. The interest rate is 6% per year. That's an annual thing. How much simple interest will they pay if they take 2 years to repay the loan? So we have to find the interest. They want to know how much simple interest. So that is calculated by, by 6,300 times the interest rate as a number times the amount of time. This interest rate is a per year thing. We are given a time in years, so I can just write that number. So when I multiply all that out, I get an answer of $756. So just take a little bit of time to think about this. You took this amount of money out from the bank, so you have to pay that back. But you also have to pay back this amount too. That's essentially the fee they're charging you for taking their money out and not knowing if you're actually going to give it back. So over time, you're paying off the interest, which is, going back to the bank, ensuring that they get their money back. And then it's just a matter of, the sooner you pay it off, the less interest that you have to pay. Because if it takes you less time to pay everything off, there's less interest accumulating. Because if this number was 1, this calculation would be smaller. So it's better to pay off loans faster. So then you have less interest to pay. You're just paying mostly the principal. All right, last example. We're looking at Derek's dad, who bought new tires for $900 using a credit card. His card had an interest rate of 19%. Oof. If he has no other charges on his card, so it's only $900 on the card, and does not make a payment, so it's $900 only on the card, how much money will he owe after 1 month? So first, let's find the interest. We do what we've always been doing by taking the principal multiplied by the percent as a decimal, and we have to multiply by the amount of time. And that amount of time is 1 month. So that is 1 out of 12 months. So that's 1/12 of a year. So the interest that Derek's dad's going to pay is $14.25. But we want to know how much he's totally going to owe after 1 month. So we will combine 914.25. So to calculate the total, we take P plus I, principal plus interest, and we get $914.25.